It is useful now to go back to consideration of a human as a user of devices, services, and other technologies which have security properties. This all begins to indicate that users have a choice. Those managing or influencing the system may not see all of the choices which are available to the user when they are providing advice or putting controls in place. A user has a decision to make in every interaction with security. Following the security advice or mandates from a system manager is not trivial, or always obviously the one correct path. If there were a correct and easy to follow path, behaviors can become more habitual and unconscious. We then need to consider the user decisions from that user perspective. What information is available to that user? What choices do they have for how to proceed? There is a weighing up of choices. As an example, if I receive an email, what information is available to me that I can take into consideration? As a typical user, I will see sender address, email title, and the content. I will have to see the difference between this email and other emails I get. I will have to think of whether I have had any prior interactions with the supposed sender, or whether I've had other emails which look like this one or from this sender, and recollect and perhaps directly check those emails. I may need to consider following the kinds of advice which recommend to contact the sender through alternative communication channels, and how much effort that would be, based on the strength of any doubts I have, weighed against my thoughts and experience of what the consequences could be if it is a fraudulent email. All this while I have other tasks to do, most notably if I'm working and my job relies on me parsing and acting on emails efficiently. In much of security, the user is expected to accept the uncertainty of a situation and resolve this themselves. In this case, with a suspicious email, ideally there would be a way for the user to get a quick check of the email by a service or expert so that the user can return to their productive tasks. Bounded rationality helps us to consider the perspective of the user. We can think here of the definitions provided by Herbert Simon within behavioral economics. Rather than global rationality, which has all resources and information available to a user, it is practical to think instead of there being limits to what can be seen, how it can be interpreted, and how it can be acted upon. A user will have constraints on cognition, time, and resources. The user will very likely have incomplete information, as they can only see the world from where they are. This is often the case with IT security, as the user is interacting with devices and technologies through an interface. When users are asked to be aware of risks when using digital technologies, implicit in this is that they can only be aware of risks that can be noticed through the interfaces to those technologies. Ransomware as an attack is very obvious, but only once it is too late, which is part of the point of ransomware. When ransomware is compromising a system, and generally with malware, attacks are silent, so it is difficult for a user to notice it clearly. The user generally has incomplete information about how secure they really are, and hence what risk they are genuinely in at any one moment. This is one reason why worst-case arguments fall flat with users, because the evidence of the worst case happening for all users would be that everybody is being hacked, and that is not what a user sees. Evidence suggests that cybercrime victimization rates can be very low for some classes of cybercrime, nearer 1 to 3.5% for crimes such as bank account scams and non-delivery of goods, as in the analysis by Breen et al. In the A Large-Scale Measurement of Cybercrime Against Individuals paper. There will also be some level of uncertainty, as is common in real-world decision-making. In reality, users can only briefly consider the possible costs, benefits, and losses of a course of action. Similarly, they may make a quick evaluation of their choices. This approach is more a reliance on intuition than a deliberate, conscious thought that security professionals seem to design for. This guessing and the limits to resources lead to satisficing, when a user will try what they can within their means and within their resources of time and energy to try to reach an adequate outcome rather than the optimized outcome. If we ask a user to make sure that updates are installed for their device, if this is something they have not already done some time before, they will be unfamiliar with the interface. The user might click around some options and menus to look to see whether updates are enabled, but not necessarily that the newest updates are installed if they do not know immediately where to look for this. The easy route with training and messaging is to appeal to the user to treat security as being very important. This is an attempt to change their preferences, to put security first, and commit more energy to enacting security mandates. With security as a primary task, that would mean taking resources from somewhere else. Bounded rationality also includes a notion of decision fatigue. We saw that in an earlier video. when looking at reasons why users in an organization do not always comply with workplace security policies. However, humans have been shown to be loss averse, being more sensitive to the value of what they already have than any potential gains. Security is not always faced alone. Home users may get informal support from a known contact, be it someone in their family or a friend. For example, a parent may use parental controls on YouTube and the like to provide some protection for their children online. In organizations, employees may work in teams with a manager who in turn reports further up the organization. There are then additional complexities beyond individual decision-making when also considering group decision-making. For instance, an employee may ask colleagues or their manager what they have done in response to a suspicious email that many employees received. Herding may happen when an individual regards others as more informed than them and follow their decision. However, especially when there are power relationships between members of a group, an individual may follow others for conformity, potentially ignoring some of their own preferences. Herding may happen in an organization setting if policies are generally difficult to understand and apply as a response to any uncertainty. If the organization imposes IT security measures top-down without consultation, this implies a choice driven by an information cascade, following what higher-up managers do. Here we consider a worked example of applying software updates in a company, specifically updates which force a restart of the machine to which they are applied. A company's security policy may tell employees that they should install software updates immediately. If an employee is being told that they should keep software up to date, this implies that they do not already know how to do this. This must be followed through to provide step-by-step instructions for confirming how to check for and install updates. To reduce the perception of losses, we may consider reassuring an employee firstly that the update has been tested with a machine like the one they are using, to reduce the sense that something might go wrong. We may also need to ensure and communicate that active sessions from before the update will be restored in their entirety afterwards. Users can have concerns about whether they are going to lose their session and productive work. The operating system's own duration status for an update is not necessarily the same as the complete amount of time the update will take in a work context and is often not ensured upfront. Providing an upfront, accurate indicator of how long the whole update process will take for a machine like the one the employee uses will allow them to better plan around a software update and fit it in around their work. All of this would reduce the uncertainty for the user. If the organization and management were to force updates upon employees, this forces a security benefit upon employees and an externality of disrupting whatever else they may have been doing. Forcing updates then implicitly assumes that whatever the employee is doing is less important than security. The impact could be lessened by ensuring that sessions are restored and allowing users to plan when the update happens.